This is excellent.
What was it, like a year ago? I don't know. I exposed Rashad's network of phony websites that praised just himself, and they were all owned by him, operated by him or his marketing team. Anyway, he took down those websites. Now he put it back up. Nobody's noticing anymore. He's got his fake science news watch, fake news website up here, and he's got another article by himself, presumably.
Okay, I should step in because we're not giving ourselves enough credit here. We are the ones that exposed Science News Watch as one of his little, what would you call that?
It's a fake
Go ahead.
news website. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a fake news website. It pulls syndicated stories from news agencies, so like the AP Wire services or whatever, and then he sprinkles in stories about himself. As you can see there, up in the center of the website, there's a column section "Scientists to Know." Well, that's just him. If you're wondering about which scientist you should know, it's him. It's him and his herbalist master healer there.
Okay, so he is there. He is
He's
lecturing a bunch of
he's
students.
he's presenting himself as a university professor that he's absolutely not.
Mhm. And he talks about wireless energy transfer using soft materials, nanocrystals, and plant stem parts. But when you read this, it's pretty clear to me that what he's demonstrating is a crystal radio. The very earliest radios used a crystal, the vibrations of a crystal, to capture the frequency, the electromagnetic transfer from the airwaves. And I'm really slaughtering this because I've had a little bit of this here. I mean, I know my E&M a lot better than I'm making it sound. But at any rate, when you read this, these crystal radios were very weak and they got replaced around maybe early 1900s. But you can still get kits to create one. I think I had one from Heathkit at one time back in the day when I was into amateur radio. And it looks like he's got a hold of one of those kits because he's talking about sending out signals through the electromagnetic spectrum, and his crystals are capturing that and allowing the students to feel the vibration. I mean, I
It's
mean,
called a
so
radio, yeah.
well, congratulations, Rashad. You discovered something that was discovered back in around 1890.
Very interesting about this article. It doesn't mention anywhere where he gave this lecture. It doesn't say university. That's apparently a secret here. And let's comment on this picture. This picture is supposed to show, I guess, some instrumentation or some sophisticated scientific apparatus. Well, I looked this up because that red lamp looked very familiar. And yes, indeed, it's a $40 infrared heat lamp that you can buy on Amazon. And it does absolutely nothing to nanocrystals, has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, because infrared is really, really low frequency, large wavelength dispersive stuff that's not going to have any effect on a radio.
This Rashad saw this somewhere and thought, "Hey, this fancy colored light looks scientific. I'll get this, for a picture."
And of course, this Science News Watch has all of the material that he's written numerous times in the past and has published, trying to make it sound like somebody else is writing this, but he wrote this.
We know he's got a marketing person that works very closely with him,
Well,
and
yeah, I mean,
some of the wording is definitely him because nobody else would write that kind of stuff. So this is his newest social media post. And what was he saying in this? Can you give some context?
so I'll read it out loud.
Yeah, go
Demonstrating
ahead.
the medical applications of newly developed phononic nanocrystal crystalline technology to scientists and doctors. Thankful to my dedicated lab techs, physics students, and supporters, peer reviewed publication pending. Wow. And you know where that's going to be published, right?
I know where that's, yeah, in the International Journal of Science and Research.
International Journal
Um,
of Science and
yeah,
Research.
look at this. This looks great. Scroll back up. So he's researching some nanocrystal technology, and he's
Mhm.
presenting it to scientists and doctors. And there's pictures of exactly what he's doing there. Well, let's examine those pictures more closely.
Okay, so there he is.
So let's look at the top left picture. It looked familiar. I'd seen him post pictures with that background before, and I was curious. So this is Rashad Richey's house. I don't know, for whatever reason, pictures are online, and there's the fireplace. And if you look at the tiles on the fireplace, yes, that's exactly his place. It matches exactly. So wait, this is in his home. Okay, that's cool. He's posting a picture of his home. Okay, what's the next picture? Top right. That is also his home, and those are presumably the scientists and doctors that he's showing around. Wait, he's in his home wearing a lab coat? This is his basement, by the way. That's the top right
Oh, is it the
picture.
basement?
Yeah, that's the basement. So these scientists. Okay, whatever he wants to wear a lab coat at his home. That's cool. Then at the bottom left, that's a picture of his kitchen counter. Correct. He's in a lab coat showing two people who definitely don't look like doctors, frankly. They look like students. He's showing them a multimeter on his own kitchen counter. So I'm not sure what that's supposed to signify, but it's clearly not a lab. He doesn't have a lab. He has a kitchen. By the way, his cooking platform doesn't have an exhaust hood. That just bothers me. So, but that's that kitchen. That's his kitchen. There's pictures on Zillow of exactly the setup. He hasn't changed a thing since he moved in 2020. So, and then the bottom right, we see a crystal. That's right. He's working with nanocrystals. Now, what's behind that crystal? Oh, that's right. It's a cabinet from his kitchen. That's his nanocrystal. That's about the size of a fist.
I know.
I mean, that is so hilarious. It's totally absurd and ridiculous. Nobody who thinks more than a few seconds looking at these pictures will think that he's actually in a lab inventing anything. It's just complete show. And the picture above that, that's also his basement. That's his little lab set up in his basement. In the background, you can see his treadmill. I mean,
The
it's just
treadmill. That's
absurd.
very important.
Yeah,
This is very
very
exhausting work.
important lab setup. Yeah. It's hilarious. It's absurd. But the one thing is he posted this on LinkedIn too. And a lady who's been a doctor for decades, a well-known doctor, she's like, "Oh, you do everything so well, Rashad. Congratulations." He's fooling people who won't spend a second, investigating or even thinking about this. They're just like, "Oh, great. You do well," and then they move on, obviously. I mean, either he pays them or they just don't pay attention to this because, I mean, it's so fake. Everything is so incredibly fake. And he's trying to make himself look like this highly educated lab professor doing medical research of nanocrystals. Nanocrystals used mostly for, in pharmaceutical applications, I guess. Just so absurd.
You know what's missing? He needs a
What?
Jacob's ladder.
Yeah.
You see him in Frankenstein movies, right? The little spark that goes up between those two wires. That's what he needs. Oh
So
my god.
yeah,
And the other thing
it's
is like the lab coat is just wonderful. I mean, like, dude, what chemicals are you working with
yeah.
that would require that? It used to really bother me when I was teaching at the college level, and these students would walk around with their lab coats on, and I would tell them, look, if there's anything on your lab coat, I don't want you walking around people. We have a little like there's a box that you put your lab coat in for cleaning. You put your lab coat in there, and then you go outside. But they would walk around
Yeah.
and go to classes with their lab coats on because it makes them look smart. Any kind of medical research that you're going to be doing on nanoparticles, you're going to need some really good equipment. And I know
Do you like
because
a clean? You're gonna work in like a level 5 clean lab or something like that, or level 6 even. I don't know, but it's definitely not his kitchen counter.
well, you're dealing with crystals on the order of 100 nanometers or smaller. That's a tenth of a millimeter. That chunk of whatever it looks to me, I kind of feel like that's just good old rock candy. Does it not
Well,
look like rock candy?
well, he could have just ordered a crystal, bought one online. But I think what he did is to feel like a scientist. He bought one of those crystal growing kits that you would gift like a 7-year-old, and he grew his own crystal, and now he's all proud of this crystal.
You may be right, although I'm still sticking with my rock candy
Yeah.
explanation. And by the way,
Uh,
if that is professionally grown crystal, that is a horrible crystal. Oh my God, it's all fractured.
I think it's from a growing kid. I don't know. That would make him feel smart, you know?
Yeah, I like the tie too. I mean, that's great. But I will say this: I have known a
Uh,
lot of physics professors over the time. I don't think any of them ever dressed like that.
no,
They would look at you like, "What the hell?"
I don't know a physics professor that's worn a tie in probably, I don't know, who knows? Probably 30
Oh
years, who
yeah,
knows?
it's crazy, crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me look and see what else we got here.
I think
Um,
those are the main things we had. We just want to make fun of him for trying to appear smart when he's clearly not. But he's
yeah.
so
Oh,
desperate, to showcase that. We've uncovered him. Then he took down his website, but he can't, live without that praise from his online followers. So, yeah,
so this is another picture. Did you ever identify who this person is?
I did not. It must be. I think this is Morgan State. Is this correct?
I think it's Morgan State. Yeah,
Yeah, Morgan State. We did identify the instrument.
that looks like an
Yeah,
electron microscope. Yeah.
yeah, it is an electron microscope. But we identified the make and model too. So, because there aren't that
Mhm.
many out there, clearly,
There's this
and
crystal.
crystal, yes, you can put that in an electron microscope. I don't know what you would do with that because clearly you're not publishing anything on it. In the top left picture, that could be like an XRD thing, X-ray diffraction, because that's something you do on crystals as well. X-ray diffractometry. Yeah, he just took pictures in a lab, really, because he knows people there. And who does he know there? Oh yes, Willie Rockwood, right? What's his name again?
Oh, really
That's that's
Rockward.
that's where he got those pictures taken.
Can I tell the story?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is really funny. I don't know how it happened, although I have a sneaky suspicion it was really Rockwood. But Willie Rockwood is a physics professor at Morgan State University, and he's a big time buddy of Rashad Richey. Why? I have no idea. But evidently, and I have no proof of this, but we do know that Rashad Richey was invited to speak at the National Society of Black Physicists. It was the November 23 conference. And I have a feeling it was really Willie Rockwood that invited him. So Rashad gets up there and makes an absolute fool of himself. He gets up there and he speaks a bunch of nonsense. So I email the head of the National Society of Black Physicists and Willie Rockwood, who was the former president, and told them, "You guys got totally bamboozled by this man. He has no physics background at all. He's never completed an undergraduate degree in physics, and I don't think he's ever completed a single course. And judging by his book in physics that he wrote, he doesn't know a Hamiltonian from a Lagrangian." Okay, that's a little inside joke. Okay, so I send this email to those two guys. The one guy, I forget his name, who's the current president, wrote back and said, "Yeah, in no uncertain terms, yeah, there is a lot of issues with this guy." The other one threatened to sue me and basically told me that I don't want to hear any more about Rashad Richey. And then I
Willie,
come
Willie,
later.
yeah, Willie Rockwood threatened to sue you for talking ill of Rashad Richey. Now, Willie Rockwood is outwardly a physics professor, an actual professor. I mean, his
Mhm.
accomplishments aren't high, but for Morgan State
No.
University, which is not a top university, maybe that's just where that goes. But he seems to be an actual physicist, whereas and an actual physicist would immediately know that Rashad Richey knows absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and then Chris Harding, who shows up a lot in my comment section, he tells me that Willie Rockwood is Rashad Richey's advisor at Paris Graduate School. Now, I
That's
haven't
right.
confirmed it, but it so makes sense. It all makes sense now.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the
But
goings on are, but go ahead.
that would actually open up an avenue for complaint to Morgan State University. I know it's a HBCU, so they're not going to do anything.
Oh, by the way, before I forget, you cannot perform physics experiments as a professor in your own home. Not allowed. Can't do it. The university
I
will never go for that. Yeah, and my understanding of it, by the way, is that if you're dealing with nanocrystals, you have to use respirators.
Clearly.
So,
Yeah, why wouldn't
yeah.
you? They don't but in also nanocrystals, you don't just make them in a beaker. They don't float around in there. There's no way. There's absolutely no way.